That's the 911.
911, somebody just broke into our house. We're all alone. Please help us.
Is somebody in the house now?
I don't know, but I just said the line. Please help us.
Woof. What a busy day. Man, Wednesday. Spring break? Yes. Things happening, things shaking, things getting done. I know. Spring break for you, spring break for me, but not spring break for everybody. It's pretty good, though. Gives the researchers a time to wind down. Speaking of the researchers, let's pop this out. Welcome to the night show. It's the question and answer show. What do you have? What do you got? Kind of like Stump the Professor, right? Episodes, 1,566 downloads, 87 days, 19,422 views. That's not bad. Not bad. Not bad for a bunch of academic, real CJ psychology and sociological researchers and developing scholars, right? Chloe Hensley, Candace Young, Savannah Munoz, two new researchers. Yep, two new researchers, Candace Young, Savannah Munoz. Question death givers. Yes, question death givers. We'll just leave it there. They understand. Both of them. Both of the developing question death givers get it. Well, when we say question death, we mean really good questions coming out. Anyway, we're live. We're on Kick. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. And we're doing a shared event on Facebook for YouTube. We didn't do it on Rumble because, I don't know, it's just is what it is. Is what it is. Let's get into tonight's episode. What this is question and answer. Now, whenever I go to different regional centers or different institutions or different law enforcement academies or different agencies or have training events and crime scene, detective work, you know, all the good stuff for those that know me, constitutional set precedent and law, I always have a quick opener, which is called Stump the Professor, which is questions. And everybody likes to deliver that question. Trust me, people like to hear their own voice. Nothing wrong with that, but make sure the voice that comes back at you is not the voice that dissuades you from continuing your own voice in a scholarly manner. So what we did is we challenged some researchers and challenged society to come up with some really good questions about CJ, psychology, and sociology. And you'd be amazed at the curiosity levels that are out there. Now, nothing's bad with curiosity. But remember, curiosity killed the cat. Scholarly research and scholarly ability and scholarly thought, scholarly combination of words, linguistic preview, never killed a cat. Remember that. So we're live. Hook in, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the alert if you want to learn something versus watching evulsative gloom and doom. Yeah, evulsative. Watch the last episode. Do body cameras actually prevent police violence? The answer to this is no. Think of, I don't know, the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There were no body cams out there. Of course, there were car cams out there, but there were no body cams out there that would separate the officer hundreds of yards from their vehicle to see what was going on firsthand through the force continuum, hands-on, soft empty hand, hard empty hand. You know, impact weapon, taser. Well, back then, you know, no tasers. They didn't really come out till the, 90s and, early 2000s, so to say, for law enforcement use. Those are that big, fat, nasty M26 is not the cool, sleek X26, and dadgum sure not the Taser 10, which is an assault missile magnet. No. Scholarly answer. Research indicates that cameras do not significantly reduce any police assaults or one would question as an assault or excessive use of force whatsoever. But in reverse, the systemic view of this. Systemic reviews find no consistent deterrent effect on violence during police versus sociological encounters. Done over. Now, one will question, the police cameras, it's there to hold the police accountable. But, well, if we didn't have a society that was broken and committing crime, we wouldn't have a need for the police or law enforcement to enforce the legislative word of law that the executive body that you as society voted into the seat of executive position to write a law. It's a sociological answer. You think society's going to stamp one with a camera? Society has cameras too all day long. Oh, look at this happening, a cell phone. Does it stop the violence? Does it stop the need? No, it does not. It does nothing. It's another tool for persuasion. That's really all it is. Good question, though. Lum, ETL 2015, and Kubich 2017 and 2022. Question 2. I don't know how many questions we're going to get to tonight, guys, but it was an onslaught. And again, I'd like to thank Chloe Hensley for leading the charge on the questions, and Candace Young and Savannah Munoz, and all three for the death by question. It's good, though. How does society's views on law enforcement affect public safety? Public perception of law enforcement or police, and when I say police, it's just law enforcement, all law enforcement agencies. The perception of law enforcement legitimacy and procedural justice directly impacts crime reporting and cooperation with the law enforcement agency, period. If society doesn't cooperate with the law enforcement agency, there's a reason society doesn't cooperate with the law enforcement agency. And it's not the old pat on the butt, woe is you, society is victimized. That doesn't work anymore because society needs the police, because society has the heinous atrocities of man's indignity, man's violence toward mankind. Period. All mankind, human beings. So society's views on law enforcement are constructed by society themselves because law enforcement comes from society. The majority of major metropolitan cities, the majority of major agencies have law enforcement officers that were born, raised, bred, live in the city, live in the metropolitan area, live in the region, live in the area. It's a career for them. It's not just I don't like McDonald's anymore and I want to pick up any job I can and go to a department that'll pick me up and certify me so I can escalate up the chain. No, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, society and, Democrats, Republicans, left wing, right wing, the bureaucrats in society do not like hearing that because it discredits their word of law, their push for law. Just is what it is. So society's view of law enforcement is the impact of law enforcement. Crime reporting. You called 911. Why'd you call 911? It's the systemic view from question number 1. Body camera is not going to affect it. Society's view is not going to affect it because society creates its own problem. When communities view the police as legitimate and fair, compliant with the law, sociological compliance with the law increases voluntary cooperation. But law enforcement comes from society. So the struggle is, where are you going to get the law enforcement officers? You're going to grow them in a garden? The academy doesn't change behavior. The academy doesn't change mom and dad's design of how mom and dad raised someone. So the answer to that one is a society affects its own view. It's not the law enforcement agency. Hate to break the news and bend it off like a broken stick. It just is what it is. Where do you think your cops come from? The society. If you have a city that's predominantly one ethnic, race, culture, subculture, and then you hear the arguments, the man's holding me down. When the population of your law enforcement agency is your race, your culture, your subculture, how is anyone holding you down? It's society itself. Good question. As Fauci would say, that's a great question. Whatever happened to that dude? Is he still on the chem run? Who knows? Question 3. What is the process when law enforcement officer is investigated for police misconduct? Police misconduct, meaning internal investigation. Investigations typically involve internal affairs. And used to in the past civilian review boards, but civilian review boards have trickled off. Why? They're worthless. They're useless. Civilian review boards as what it is. Civilians that do not understand anything about law enforcement, have no law enforcement experience, and the predominant number of people on a civilian review board lack education, lack psychological education, lack sociological education, and it's all answer driven by assumption, presumption, or persuasion. So it starts with internal affairs. Was department policy violated? Period. Done. Yeah, it's just is what it is. Now, external agencies reviewing. Example, county, city, it kind of goes up the chain, but typically it would be, the state investigatorial agency. It's example, if it happened in Atlanta, Georgia police misconduct, then the Georgia Bureau of, the GBI would come in, Georgia Bureau of Investigation would come in, pretty much the same. But the actual procedure, and it's an administrative process, internal affairs. If it's an internal affair and or policy or procedure, then that's departmental. But if it's found serious misconduct that would trigger a criminal investigation, then it's shifted over to a parallel administrative review, meaning the prosecutor's office, the DA, district attorney, for prosecutorial meaning judicial review, again, under executive word of law, under written executive word of law that is written and put into elected and voted upon legislative law. So it's kind of a trick basket, but simple answer, internal affairs. And if a crime was committed, not just violation of the department policy, but a state legislative crime or federal, then it's bound over to a parallel, so to say, administrative power, being the prosecutor, be it state, regional, and or federal. Good questions. Oh, and just to let everybody know, these questions are real. They're not BS or fake. I've actually got them up on the screen here, but they were all emailed to me and compiled, and bam, here they are. There they are. There's a lot of them, just the questions, and I'm just reading the questions as we go. Yeah, I've got them up on another screen. I can't remember all of them. I don't know how many of them are there. Let me see. There are 53 questions. I don't know if we'll get to all 53, but there are 53 questions. 53. Like I said, this is just open mic. Chats are open, so we're live on Twitter, Kick, YouTube, and Rumble, so I'm kind of looking at the chats. If you got a question that's a cool one, man, put it in the chat. I'm looking at it. If you're watching, if you're that person that just stumbled on the channel because you wanted something really good to watch instead of gloom and doom. All right, next. How are witnesses allowed to give a testimony during court? Good question. I've seen a lot of it go good, and I've seen a lot of it go bad, and I've seen a lot of it misused, and here's how. Witnesses provide testimony through direct examination by the calling party and cross-examination by the opposing party. Now, what does this mean? If you have a witness to a crime, of course the district attorney or the prosecutor is going to talk with the witness and coach them on how to testify if they're testifying on behalf of the prosecutorial body, the state. Yeah, there's going to be coaching, plus cross-examination by the defense attorney. So, primary side, opposite side. With competency, competency is actually going to be determined. The ability of competency, or the ability to perceive how to answer the question correctly, remember, communicate, and it's a reconstruction of the crime. It's not a reenactment. So the court assesses the witness's credibility, so to say, the reliability, the he said, she said, the words that are being used. And the court also reviews the coaching method. Did the prosecutor coach this witness and treat this witness as a hostile witness, meaning a witness that did not want to testify on behalf of the prosecution? And then the defense gets a hold of it. And that becomes an even worse show as it is. Testimonial evidence is evaluated before it's delivered. That is just the truth, people. It's not, let's get Bubba on the stand. Bubba has talked to nobody. No, wrong. Doesn't work that way. The prosecutor knows Bubba is going to testify. Cross-examination defense knows Bubba is going to testify. So when you think a witness of a crime testifies 100% non-coached, non-persuasive words input, you are wrong. It's called lack of education, lack of the judiciary review and legislative system that the executive body wrote in based on sociological vote to put the person in. Yeah, it's kind of like dirty pool. Dirty pool. You do not think that the district attorney, the prosecutor, is going to coach a witness on correct words to say that are more inflammatory. Fire, combustion. Yeah, different words that invoke a different response, a different emotional trigger. So the witness is allowed to testify, but the witness has actually given a, direction on how to testify and what to actually deliver. Hate to break the news off to society. Witness testimony is coached just as much as a lie is coached. Next question. Does restorative justice actually reduce incarceration rates for juvenile? No, it does not. Restorative justice is, to be honest with everybody, with my years in law enforcement and academic review of it, it's a mixed or reduced recidivism argument. Restorative justice means restore society to a period in time to where recidivism, habitual behavior, doesn't exist anymore. Traditionally, juvenile processing within restorative justice is based on sociological influence, construct. When you have a bad home, you have mom and dad that aren't there as the guardian angels that's raised by angels, raised by, nature or nurture, or raised by wolves and tigers. What would you expect? Are you wanting to restorative back toward wolf and tiger behavior, or restorative back toward nurture and nature? Well, if the juvenile has no nurture and nature, where are you going to get the actual real restorative justice program based on society? Because the juvenile's already incarcerated. The increase in victim satisfaction as compared to traditional juvenile prosecuting or justice prosecuting or processes. Society doesn't understand the process for juveniles. Why? There's more with juvenile justice than there is with adult criminal justice. Looks like I'm hitting freaking harsh topics. I'm watching Kick, jump on and jump off. Well, the majority of kickers are what? Gamers. It's funner to play a game. Yep, somebody's going to get mad at that, Chloe. It's funner to play a game than to educate yourself. That's a good question, though. Hope that kind of answered it. But no, the restorative justice system for the juvenile justice system is not going to be effective in juvenile justice until it's focused, targeted, and flawless in the adult system of society. The influence of the juvenile. Heck, look at music. Music degrades genders, degrades society. Let's go listen to it and jump in a car and hang out the window with our gat and our gun and do circles in the middle of the city. Anybody see that stuff happening in Memphis this weekend? The other day and yesterday? Yep. Go raise it up. That's what it is. Nurtured or wolves. Yeah. Next, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of probation and parole over imprisonment? Cost effectiveness. Yep. Alternatives. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Overcrowding. It's cost effective. And you're looking at the previous question at the adult level. All right. So when you look at the satisfaction of rate of restorative justice, are you restoring somebody that has been imprisoned, incarcerated, or somebody that's on probation, or somebody that was in prison and incarcerated and now they're on parole? Are you practicing restorative justice and restoring that person back into the environment of the wolves and the tigers? There's the problem. Probation and parole is derivative, created as an alternative financially, money, the dollar, the nickel, the quarter, the penny, prison overcrowding. Period. Executive body writes the legislative word of law, judiciary review, law enforcement first, hands-on, judge, court, the whole process of it. Are you guilty, not guilty? Boom. Sentencing next. You go to prison. Oh, we're overcrowded, so let's put it on a parole. Or, no, we don't want to send it here because we don't have detention facility enough for a misdemeanor, 1129 and under. So now we're going to put it on probation. Restorative, right back out into this society or the environment that that person was in when they committed the crime. Now the influence is still there. It's a 50-50 roll. It's a 50-50 bargain. And here's another reason why. There's no funding for programs there. So the parole and the probation program is based on money, commerce, period. The executive body, the bureaucracy, the Democrats, the Republicans, the left wing, probation and parole. What are you going to do? Restorative justice, release somebody back out into the environment where the influence was there to commit the crime again? There's the problem. There's no fix there. You don't see that. Some would say a halfway house. Oh, it's a halfway house. More so in statistical review and meta-analysis and research, it's a failure house because it's a halfway house. It's somewhere to stay, to be monitored in order for you to be easily seen so we can monitor your progress to go into the restorative justice side, but we've provided you with no out of the non-restorative justice into society. High failure rates, technical violations, word of law violations, increased public safety risks. You get that. It is what it is. Think of a juvenile that turned, that was prosecuted as an adult and turned 18, 19, 20 in prison. Now they're out. They're on parole. Halfway house. What are they going to do? Where's the experience? Where's the knowledge? Where are they going to go to school? Is there a university they're going to take them? God, I'm loving it. I'm seeing Kick just jump on and jump off. Chloe, that tells me, Kick is all about the video game, not the self-betterment. Yeah, says this guy. So anyway, imprisonment. The risk factors are there, period. There's no research that says one's better than the other. Meta-analysis all day long. Cohen's D, Hedges G showing the problems to it all day long. 0.8 over high or mid-range. It's all over the place. Anyway, let's stay away from the numbers and the research. 7, does mental illness cause more false confessions? The answer is yes. Yes, mental illness is one of the primary roots for the increasing false confession for classification of criminal activity. Why? It's not the mentally ill that are out there like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or Bubba and Cletus, the crazy guys down the corner committing crimes. Mental illness is an easy identifiable victimization. Influence, victimize, get what one wants from a mentally ill person in society, thus the sociological fragmentation. So now we go back to the question, and let's go back here, restorative. Yeah, how are you going to restorative a mentally ill victim back into society when traditionally and throughout life experience that mentally ill person has been continuously victimized? Yeah, it's easy to get a false confession. Easy. Disabilities show heightened susceptibility to falsely confess, fear, nerves, twitch. And for those of you that are like, oh, how does that happen? We have several shows here on CJTV. Go back and look for them. We had one last night, 2 days ago, a matter of fact. And we've had several shows. We even had a primary show with a whole bunch of researchers performing research on false confession and the mentally ill. So yeah, it is. It's mentally ill subjects are easily confused. Increased subjectability, suggestibility, compliance, and cognitive impairment during interview and interrogation. The example, if I say grad or graduate, what do I mean? One in a scholarly atmosphere would say, hey, Dr. Mike, what do you mean? Graduate program or grad from undergraduate or grad from graduate or doctoral? What do you mean? Where's the direct? Compliance. Cognitive impairment during the interrogation, the linguistic values. So, yeah, the mentally ill, yeah, you can get false confessions out of mentally ill people all the time. And that's why law enforcement needs to up their game and get off the thumb, so to say. Pull it out of your, you know what I'm talking about. Just like the other night. Not all law enforcement officers or investigators have an education. There are plenty of Bubba and Gunthers and Cletuses and Little Johns out there who just want to do the job, is what it is. And if they don't like it, come to this guy. I'll prove it to you all day long with numbers that can't be argued. Numbers don't lie. 2 and 2 are 22. 2 plus 2 are 4. If you believe in the numeric and not the Judaic or Romaic numeric system, this is what it is. Next question. What are the limitations of forensic evidence in a courtroom? The answer is the National Research Council, period, over. National Research Council, which takes all of this forensic review and puts it into an aesthetic platform to where it can be argued as a set precedent and or privilege or reliability for judiciary review. Many forensic disciplines, including bite marks, a dentist, more training, forensic odontologist, forensic bite marks, validate specific true non-pseudo science, and they have high error rates. Now, why did I use the dentist in forensic odontology? There was a forensic odontologist that did a case in the lower Gulf area of Mississippi. I believe it was lower, like Jackson South. A lot of bad mistakes, and the forensic pathologist agreed with it, and confession and this and coercion, and bad case, appealed, flawed. So it's the expertise of it. Now, the evidence in a courtroom, it's not what the evidence gives. No one's going to argue the evidence. They're going to argue the presentation. Forensics is preparation for presentation that uses specific sciences. So if someone, and I use bite marks, a dentist, got a degree, dentist, but whatever, practitioner for a few years, goes and gets training later on, and suddenly they want to go get more training to work with law enforcement. So now they complete that and get certified, and they're a forensic odontologist. Unless you have a lot of experience and a lot of set precedent and reliability and expert testimonial systems, times to where a judge is going to allow you to expertly testify so that the jury takes it as evidence. It's got a high error rate. Subjectivity and pattern matching. Biased. You can argue biased all day long. And trust me, I got a very extensive background in criminal investigation and forensics and crime scene. There's a lot of bias to it. It's all based on preparation for presentation. Excellent question. Remember, chats are open. We're on Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube, Kick. Looks like some people are dropping off the Kicky games and starting to watch now. Look at this. Look at this. All right, let's go. Let's go to another one. Let's see. What are the steps taken to ensure the integrity of chain of custody? Chain of custody requires documentation, a chronological thinking, written word, paper. Yeah, and that paper includes fingerprints when you're touching it, you're handling it. But it ultimately relies on the forensic evidence technician or the evidence identifier, gatherer, collector, transportation, and the evidence room people, the tracking. It's paper, guys, or electronic, stored through signed receipts, electronic scans, videoed. Yeah. The majority of evidence rooms, for bigger agencies, the agencies I worked for always had really large evidence rooms. When I was a lieutenant commander, we had a gigantic evidence room. My God, we had evidence techs. We had crime scene techs out on each shift with, evidence handlers and all kinds of, the documentation and the photography and the video was extensive. So it's all based on the department's policy and procedure. Tampering, storage, conditions, seal, tape, initials over seal. There's so much, but it's also based on policy and procedure of the department and policy and procedure of the division, also the prosecutor themselves. The prosecutor can have problems with past presentation of evidence and say, hey, I need this department, this agency to start doing this to ensure the non-questionable validity of the evidence. So, hand receipts, paper, video, department policy and procedure, time and date stamp, that's critical. Locations, and it doesn't start with, it starts with the location, 123 Smith Street, northeast bedroom, northwest corner of the northeast bedroom, under the northeast nightstand, lower platform parallel shelf, at the northwest leg, lower contact with the carpet of the shelf. Well, that's a lot just for that little piece of evidence, a piece of hair. Yeah, very arguable. Yeah, go all day about this. We should have a show about that. Yeah, my researchers, remember that. Savannah Munoz, Candace Young, Chloe Hensley, the angry devils of questions of... Let's have a class about that one day. Let's have a show about that. Let me see. Next one, how do investigators determine the time since death using forensic pathology techniques? Aha! Common sense here, time since death, not time of death. Unless you're Quincy or Dr. Dum Dum and you're standing there with a watch or a clock that has all forms of time, Zulu, London, European, American, Eastern, Central, you can't establish the time of death because you were not there as a medical doctor or medical practitioner that can cause cessation of life. Thus, you have to look at all definitions in the scholarly versions of text, what death is. It's time since death, algor mortis, rigor mortis, liver mortis, decomposition stages, biomolecular markers analyzed through standard protocols, which are department-driven, lab-driven, typically state forensic pathologist-driven, and investigative inquiry. The separation of livivity versus marbling, the separation of blanching versus non-blanching marks for blood livivity if the body has been moved. These are key signature signs on the actual body. Good question, but we're not going to have class about this. So some of you would kind of, rewind this and say, ooh, that sounds cool. I need to go to class and learn this. This is not a substitution for a classroom. These methods that I just said, all of them, and the evaluation of all of them, provide an approximate time frame. The environment, the temperature outside, foliage, carpet on top of the body, in a garbage can. Yes, all the way up to mummification with everything I just talked about. Yep. Precise decomposition detail in measurement for time since death, giving multiple predictors of time since death. That's a good question. I just threw a lot out there, wasn't it? Give me a thumbs up if it's like hearing from a water hose on that question. Yeah. Let me see. Let me check the chats real quick. I know it's Friday night. Everybody's got better things to do. Spring break, baby. Nobody wants to be in class, but this is not class. This is just kind of questions and answers for what's going on. Here's a good one. What are the ethical responsibilities of a forensic expert witness when asked questions by the defense? Ooh, the expert. That means one has had to have had past experience testifying as an expert, can annotate it, has the education, has the background, has the set precedent for working with an agency and cases to add to a tenureship or curriculum vitae for the judge to hear, read, understand. Thus, education, practitionership, follow-on forensic training to aid law enforcement, and testimonial after all of that to where a judge allowed it before a judge would say, yep, you can testify as an expert. That's the ethical responsibility that is the primary alpha. Period. Done. Over. It's kind of like asking Bob, yeah, I just graduated Juilliard, man, the cooking school of cooking schools. Look at me. Would you like me to make you a blood pudding from sheep gut and blood? Are you going to trust Bob to do that when Bob just graduated? How is Bob going to get rid of all the septic poisoning, the bacteria? How's Bob going to ensure the sheep gut with the sheep blood, which actually tastes like cherry sauce, by the way? How are you going to ensure he separated it and cooked it to where you're not going to eat it and become septic yourself, vomit, get an infection, and die? Same way with the ethical pretext. You have to evaluate the forensic expert's ability, education, the framework, credibility, and reliability. Forensic experts must maintain objectivity, provided opinions in their area of expertise, their area opinions, not I think, feel, believe. Anybody that's been in a classroom with me knows how I think, feel, believe will get your red pen razored. That's how it works. Competence, disclosure limitations, even arguments of uncertainties. Just like research, restrictions and limitations. You cannot withhold it. It's testifying truthfully and bottom line with practitioner skill, forensic training, advanced training, working with agencies, time span. That's just what it is. Let's go to the next one. These are some pretty cool questions. Man, it's already 36 minutes into this thing. What criteria are used to qualify a witness as an expert? I just went over that, but everything for forensics, but Federal Rule of Evidence 702 and the Dalbert Standard. Remember that. Experts must possess specialized knowledge, skill, training, and experience or education to even exist in the argument of assisting the tier of law enforcement of investigation in the fact of a crime that relies on forensic evidence to be presented to a jury for prosecution and conviction, regardless of what it is. So, Federal Rule of Evidence 702 and the Daubert Standard. Plus, I covered a little bit more in detail on the previous questions. Next question. And like I said, guys, these questions aren't made up. They're right there. I'm just kind of reading the question off as I go and giving the answer. And this is based off of, 35 plus years in military and law enforcement. So, any of you got any more cool stuff and want to argue it, shoot it to an email to me, drmikelig@gmail.com. So I'm sure there are people in different districts that are like, yeah, that guy's right, but I got some more to add that's, specific in my realm. Cool, add it. We want to hear it. We want to know. It's all academic. What are the legal standards? We already covered that one. Let me see. What constitutes a warrantless search regarding the collection of evidence in an emergency? And the Fourth Amendment, period, presents searches under exigent circumstances. Yes, you're responding to a domestic violence call and you hear, help me, he's stabbing me. Well, I'm not going to wait for a warrant to kick the door down and go in. Yeah, and everything I see in my directive path of travel to the victim that's being stabbed, I see a kilo of cocaine on the floor, a dead baby, a shotgun with blood on it. Yeah, the exigent circumstance. Don't need a warrant for that. It can be argued. Preservation of human life, destruction of evidence, all right? Hot pursuit. Yeah, little stomach ache on the corner, went into the mall and shot people with, a Scorpion 9. Those of you that know what a Scorpion 9 is, a little junk, firearm. And runs out of the mall and police are in hot pursuit on foot, and now little stomach ache or Jimmy Joe or whatever his name is runs into the local Walmart. Yeah, with the gun. He's already shot people. He's already killed people. Yeah, he runs into the Walmart. Now, that's what? Higher likelihood he's going to shoot more people, take hostages, put people in danger, terminate the threat. Don't need a search warrant to go in Walmart to look for little John. Don't need a search warrant to go into the mall. Exigent circumstance, the emergency doctrine allows immediate entry when there's objectively, so to say, reasonable bias to believe someone needs emergency care or evidence will be destroyed, or if someone's going to be harmed or their life threatened or life taken. Yeah. Stop that threat. Evidence is there. It's going to be destroyed. That's not rocket science. What do you want to do? Wait for that one stupid cop? Well, I got to call Judge Willis. Little stomach aches on the run with a knife. He went into this house. I'm not getting a warrant. I'm kicking the door down and I'm going into the house. I don't know if there's a wife or a child or a baby or an elderly couple in the house or a disabled, mentally ill citizen that little stomach ache, little Bob, little John, little Ray, whatever their names are going to put in harm's way and possibly kidnap, hold hostage, or harm. Yeah, I'm kicking the door down. Period. Why? Fourth Amendment, exigent circumstance. That's the answer. Good question. Good question. And unfortunately, these are the answers that society has a problem with, especially the left. Not all Democrats, but the left. The rights, a little bit too extreme sometimes. The Republicans, moderate. Yeah, they're cool with it. Democrats, cool with it because it is the Fourth Amendment. Then you get society that pushes the sociological venue of woe is they, restorative justice. Well, little Ray and little John and little Bubba do not care about restorative pretext when they're harming people. It's not the first thing on their mind. They're not caring about culture, LGBTQ, DEI. They're shooting people. They're not asking that. They're not out there talking. It may be a set motivator or mens rea, but it's not in the moment during the act. The actus rea. So yeah, that's a warrantless search. Kind of like domestic violence. Warrantless arrest. Ah, that was a good one. Let me see. Let's check. Yep, we're good. We're running good. Come on. If you're watching, you got a cool question, put it in the chat. It's kind of like stump the professor. Stump the cop. Yeah, stump the cop. Stump the cop. Let me see. There's a lot of crime scene questions here and a lot of death scene stuff. I understand it's interesting. We won't be able to get to all of them. Chloe Candace, Savannah Munoz are three researchers up here, right up there. Remind me, we may have to do like a part 2 to this. That's a lot of good stuff, man. A lot of good questions. Anyway, I'm going to shut that down. Give it. And like I said, our questions are here. I'm actually just reading them as I go, and as I shift. Kind of got them all sent off by the fantastic researchers that collected it all. How does the injury pattern correlate with the suspected weapon when involving blunt force trauma? Ooh, the analysis. Now, the analysis of the weapon type is based on 2 different things. Number 1, the reaction of the body. Yes. Contusion, bruising, venous, vascular. Next, transfer of fluid and or blood. The first one is free. You got to have the actual blood and a source to, transfer to a weapon to impact onto a body. But then again, during the blunt force trauma, that would be the impact of the blood and the blunt force trauma. So now we're going into multiple spectrums. Blunt force trauma analysis examines wound characteristics such as size, hammers, scissors, wrenches, bats, things that I've shown in PowerPoint preview in classes at different, levels, law enforcement, university, military, fed, different courses and classes I've taught, based on injury mechanics and tissue response. As I said, mechanics of the impact, the weapon, the tissue response, contusion, bruising, venous, vascular, inside, where the blood flows, brown, red, the shape, the size, the angle of it, where is the primary damage, laceratory, evulsive, scrapes, contusions. It all applies. It's the interpretation of the actual instrument that you're looking for as the body tells you by wound analysis. Now, you can't answer every crime of blunt force trauma in identifying a tool or a weapon until you're at the scene or you see the victim or you're able to identify and argue with peers what it is or what it possibly could be. However, in the long run, definitive weapon information remains difficult. It remains challenging. It's the force multiplier. It's the force application, the overlapping too. How many times was the victim struck with a specific item? You got to have the body. The body doesn't just instantaneously bruise. The body doesn't just instantaneously internally bleed vascularly or venously at the drop of a hat after the impact. It takes time. Multiple impacts, thus first free for laceration or incise, blood transfer, blood spatter versus the area. There are multiple ways to look at it, but it depends on the actual crime itself. I do teach that, blunt force trauma and a blood spatter pattern and interpretation and analysis. For those of you like, how does this guy know? Well, do a little research of your own. Research that guy, right? God, I can't get it right. Yeah, no. Research that dude right there. Yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Research me. You'll see. I need to learn how to do that better. I know. Chloe's going to complain. All right. What is the main goal for community policing? I almost said completing. What is the main goal for community policing? Now, if you would have asked me that like 10 years ago, you'd have gotten a different answer. But now that you're asking me this in 2026, it's a partnership between the community and law enforcement. Period. It's the trust. It's the bond. It's the collaborative work between the neighborhood, society to identify, prevent, problem-oriented policing. Community policing is kind of a loose cliche word nowadays in 2026. We're community policing. Well, no duh, Sherlock. You're in your car. You're out there writing those tickets, listening to people bitch you out and scream while you're writing them a ticket. There are drug dealers out here. There are murderers and rapists, and you're writing me a ticket. Well, you're breaking the law too, genius. Yeah. Was that an open container in your console of what? No. Yeah, okay. Now it just gets worse on the scene. So it's establishing the community relationship. That's all it is. Community policing. You're not going to be able to police the community effectively if you can't get the information from the community? What are you going to do? It's kind of like the other night for the show I did the other night. Police work's not a science. It's a Presidio guess go. It's an evaluation in the moment. Community policing is an evaluation in the moment unless the community is telling you what is happening and giving you the information, the problem areas, what is something that needs to be identified, addressed, and evaluated if it is a crime and how much harm it is producing in society. Community policing is up to the community. Why? Police, law enforcement, it doesn't matter what agency it is, federal, state, it doesn't matter, are from the society of human beings, people. Community. Why do you not trust them? Why do you not trust? I don't trust the police. My uncle's a cop. Oh, here we go. I don't trust the police. My grandfather was a police. Well, maybe your grandfather or your uncle was just dirty and corrupt. Trash. They did not need to be law enforcement. Easily swayed and influenced by society. So that means community policing, best in blue. Anybody ever heard that before? The city's finest? Yeah. Community. The philosophy of community policing emphasizes operational decentralization. Period. That's all it is. A permanent neighborhood assignment by officers in a jurisdiction or venue. In 2026, you can't have that. Not enough manpower. Not enough shift rotation. Too much money out there at other agencies to pull officers from other departments. Hey, come to our department. Better benefits, better policy, less of a headache, more people that will back you. Think about it. Why do you have cities right now that still to this day, this moment in 2026, have federal task force and National Guard on the streets? Because there's a problem in society. Period. Done. Over. Done. Is what it is. It's a sociological issue. It's not the issue of the police. When society puts their big boy and big girl pants on and you start getting rid of the executive body of crybaby Republicans, crybaby Democrats, crybaby left-wing, crybaby right-wing, crybaby whatever, and get down to the root of it, the true systemic, it's society. So you're not going to have officers, community policing in the community. Now, there is something like that, an example, which would be SRO. Some schools are lucky to have that one SRO in that school all the time, but not all schools, because you got SROs, the cars, rotating, hitting different schools, going different areas, because the rest of the law enforcement officers are out there on the street doing something called what? Police work, catching the people, even the speeders that are complaining. It's just the way it works. So the community policing in 2026 is more of a 60% down, and it's stuck. I mean, if you put it in like a 60-40 versus, ratio, opinion, this guy, it's 60% in the negative, 40% the positive. That's just going to keep going down and go 70%. Why? Sociological venue. And it's all based on politics. It is. It's all politics. Law enforcement is politics. Money, executive position, vote that person in, make a legislative law. Now it's a judiciary review, and law enforcement is the first hands, eyeballs of judiciary review. Money and politics. Period. Those vote for me signs, they're not cheap. Heck, I was going down the road today on 64 and I saw a sign that brought back memories for me. It looked like a Saddam Hussein in front of a flag voting for an office. I was like, what? Trust me, guys, it looked like that. It looked like Saddam Hussein running for an office in the United States. Odd. Oh, yeah. Let's go to another one. Let's do a few more. What time is it? 6:51. Gosh. Man. Give me a thumbs up if the audio and the video are cool. Probably everybody will watch this later. Some will get frustrated at he didn't go through all 50. I think they're 53. Yeah, they're 53. Good grief, man. You guys sent me 53 questions to answer in one day. That's cool, man. That's cool. It's just a task. We'll have to do a second show to complete it. How does the Fourth Amendment apply to digital data collection and surveillance technologies? Oh, Becky, look at that computer. The Fourth Amendment goes again. So, warrants, digital data collection. Guys, that is a whole new episode and show. Chloe, mark my words. Question 20, how does the Fourth Amendment apply to digital data collection and surveillance? Man, you've got cell site location, you got cell phone, you got Carpenter versus the U.S., Riley versus California, Supreme Court decisions, procedures, CERT schools, A CERT, B CERT, C CERT, D CERT. That is a monster bucket of fire. That is a good, complete 100% show on its own. We'll do that as a show on its own. So that is an awesome question. I'm glad that whoever sent that question, cool. I like that question. But we're going to move from that one and do a whole show on that. Why? Because I teach cybersecurity and cyber terrorism, Texas A&M and LETU. Wow, look at that. Yeah, I've actually got a few certifications on that level too. Not all of them. I've done a criminal investigation to where, we actually had to really buckle down on some Fourth Amendment issues with digital data, especially peer-to-peer, meaning international. All right, let me see. What are the limitations with law enforcement searching an individual for the individual's property? Answer again, Fourth Amendment, probable cause, warrantless searches, the exceptions, narrow, specific circumstances, Terry Pats, Terry stops, stop for a weapon, Terry versus Ohio, all right? Privacy protections, all right, which extend outside or into the home. Vehicles, digital evidence, increasing scrutiny from society on surveillance technologies. Well, I hate to break the news to you. As soon as you break out of the doorway of your home and into that sidewalk or into that public area, you're open game. Why? Surveillance. If you're on the phone chitter-chattering about your gun, your knife, and you're going to go rob the store and you're being monitored by something, if you're sending images or somebody sees it, you're in a barista and the barista coffee maker reads it over your shoulder, calls the police. This is what I saw. This is what I read. It's kind of like taking pictures of yourself on the internet and posting it. Someone knows the background. Someone identifies the person standing next to you. Someone identifies the steel structures in the shower stalls and knows it's stainless steel metal. And they go like, oh, I've been in that bathroom before. I know where this person's at. Sound familiar? Tracking finds you easy, but are you at an event to where there are no guns, no knives? Yes, you're walking around with something that looks like a bulge in the shape of a gun, and you've got a Mexican cat gut holster. What that is true cat gut from a dead cat wound up, dried, and turned into an S. Hook on the inside of the pants and hook into the muzzle and or break of a barrel, the barrel of a firearm, typically handgun, in the pants because you're too cheap to go buy one of those cool holsters. Jamaican cat gut. That's what it's called, man. On the street, community policing, right? Knowing the words, knowing how to talk to society. The big terms, the academic and the street terms. Yeah, it's all based on a circumstance. The Terry stop. Can we violate? Can we not? And it's all based on how the officer argues why the need is there, the exigent circumstance to violate the Fourth Amendment. That's a good show all on its own. Oh my God, we're getting great show. Write it down, Chloe. 21, the limitations of search and seizure with excruciating example to entertain YouTube and Rumble and Kick and everybody else. Let's do one more. It's Friday night. Let me find a good one. I'm going through here. We got some mental illness. Ooh, here's a good one. Yes, I just saw this Magic 3 alphabetic FBI. Always loved that. Anybody watch those shows where the FBI comes in and it's our case now, we're in control? Bull crap, it doesn't work that way. I had that happen to me once, and I basically told them where the fork should go. Put it that way. But, we worked well together. I worked well with the FBI and JTTF and different task forces all the time. But we had this one guy from New Orleans. Yeah, he thought he was the cream of the crop. Thought he was the J. Edgar Hoover key holder. No, he wasn't. I don't know how long. I've heard he got in some trouble there. I don't know how long. Okay, what investigative role does the FBI play in cases involving local jurisdictions? The FBI provides federal investigative resources. The FBI is not designed to come in and take it away from you, Johnny. Bye-bye, we need you. Pat on the back. No, that's not what it's for. It's kind of like a state agency coming in and adding, mutual aid sources to state partners, state law enforcement agencies. Technical expertise, jurisdiction over federal crimes, assisting with the local agencies. So if you have a local crime that there was non-federal property, but the second crime scene was federal property. Example, murder, body, car dump, federal property. Yeah, they're going to have to work together. But then again, when the case is there, they got mutual aid and they can get the tech support, the, so to say, ability that the lower department with the lower funding can't get. And it's not a bad thing, not a good thing. That's what it was designed for. Assisting local agencies through task force, JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force, information sharing. Yeah, I said it, information sharing, 2 words that don't make sense, like military intelligence. Yeah, information sharing, but, everybody says, 9/11 taught us all about that. Not really. Those problems still are out there and they exist. We're just simple working together. It's an assist, all right? It's not a takeover. Everybody sees that as a takeover thing. It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation for federal lands, federal properties, and if called upon, if meeting the requirements of, the FBI to aid and or assist, they're going to come. Typically, they're going to come help. They're going to send a, liaison or an agent or, someone to come evaluate and assist you, whatever agency you are, to the best of their ability. There's nothing negative about that. It's not our agency's crap because we're having to use the FBI. No, the FBI's there. Use it. You're paying for it. The FBI's getting money that your department's not getting. Use them. Period. So that's that. I know the FBI agent will hear this and say, yeah, finally somebody gave the truthful answer. Yeah, it's all good. Let's do one more, then we'll call it a night, Chloe. You remember those 2. Where are my other researches? I'm going to throw it up here again. Bam. Chloe Hensley, Candace Young, Savannah Munoz. The wicked 3 of questions. Scholarly questions. The helicopter pilot of trauma words put into a question. Good times. That's an inside classroom joke for those that don't get it. Let's do one more. What psychological factor contributes to most criminal behavior? Let me see. Let me take my second terminal. Clinical psychology of the focus trauma and philosophy. Let me do it. Antisocial disorders. My opinion. Antisocial. Here's why. A psychopathy characteristics, lack of empathy, impulsivity. I'm going to go kill somebody right now. Substance abuse disorders, cognitive defects. They're all up to impaired decision-making skill interpretation by the person who is reviewing them, assessing them. The moral reasoning skill of the person that one would say has a psychological disorder or psychological factor. You truly have to identify it. All of it has antisocial characteristics. All of it has dissociative function. All of you are mentally ill. Everyone watching this show. Everyone. So when you click on this show and you're like, yeah, that's not what I want to watch. It's not me. I'm going to dissociate myself and go back to my Xbox or my war or my gloom and doom or whatever. I hate Biden. I hate Trump channel. Whatever it is. You have that antisocial dissociative function. Dissociation, personality disorder. So the psychopathic development of your characteristics, the lack of empathy. You don't want to hear about it, even though somebody else does. So let's not hit the like or the subscribe to get this channel out there. No empathy to educate other people. Oh, yes. No, I don't care. You don't have to hit the like. You don't have to hit the subscribe. You don't have to do any of that. But these are just impulsivity examples. Yes, substance abuse. You're hooked on social media. You can't stay off of it. Yeah, substance. You're like, that's not an alcohol. That's not does it affect the hippocampus? Yes, it does. Does it affect the amygdala, the center of the brain, the frontal cerebral cortex, eyes, hearing? Sometimes your sense of smell would change based on the influence of what you see, the decision-making skills. Yeah. Antisocial disorders. Yep. Antisocial disorders are not diagnosed mental dilapidative. Example, schizophrenia. Mental, but yet physical at the same time. Frontal hardening of the brain tissue. So we can't just say antisocial disorder. Well, that's schizophrenia. Yeah. Lack of empathy, impulsivity to hurt people. Well, what else do we have going on here? The question was, what psychological factors contribute to most criminal behavior? Not psychological and meteorological or biological factors. Yo, look at that. We got a whole new target for a whole new show. Man, the genius question developers and hunters and finders have helped make new future broadcasts and live streams. Anyway, again, as I said, this is not fake. There it is right there. And we've made it to, well, I kind of like, didn't answer all of them because some of them were kind of like, had different answers. But we're on question 26. Remember that, 26. We'll pick up with 27. And we may have to make 3 shows about this and additional shows about specific topics that we've identified that are cool questions. Some good ones. See, society does have a brain after all. Look at that. Impulsivity. Send the professor a question. Stump the professor. Yep. So, without further ado, remember, this is not a substitute for a classroom. This is not something that you should take lightly either. Why should you not take it lightly? Because we don't do gloom and doom. We don't do politics. We do academic. But we cover the reality of it, the real research of it as it applies to society. Period. As it applies to you. If you got a question, send it. If you got a question for the researchers, bam, there it is again. Pause it, write it down, all 3 of them. It's there. Everything here is pretty much academically peer-reviewed that we put out. But tonight was question night for me, the mic, the open mic. Thus, no scripts, just Dr. Mike G up top in the ticker, CJTV, episode 28. If you got any comments, additives to this, man, please put it in the chat. If you see this later, put it in the comment. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, but make it constructive. If there's something you've seen in your life, your profile, your education, your job, your profession that, ties into one of these, man, throw it in there. Share the knowledge to the masses. More power to the scholars. Other than that, it's Wednesday. It's the 25th. Midway, spring break. I've got a lot of spring break to do. Have a good night.